Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen with a monthly report summary for May-June 2018. We will be going over what the various studios at Foundry42, Cloud Imperium Games and Turbulent have all been working on for both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, and what they're currently working on now in a slightly new format as I'm merging what all of the studios have been up to together so it makes more sense for a summary and makes for less repetition. Mining. They worked on scanning and pinging to search for asteroids and minerals for the mining feature. Mining required the expansion of the ship damage map system to work on new types of asset, as well as visuals for cracking rocks. At the same time, they fixed some long-standing bugs that should help improve texture details. Also, there's an addition for the Prospector of actually making its mining arm functional, its boom arm, so it can turn and look at things and fire its laser. There's a primary mining beam which heats up and fractures the rock. There's also effects that play on the surface of the rocks that show how it's being cracked apart. After the rock is destroyed, an explosion effect is parameterized based on how well you did. If you add too much power, you'd get a much larger explosion than a successful operation. After you break the rock, a secondary extraction mode uses a tractor beam to collect the minerals into your cargo hold. Characters, animations, and clothing. The upcoming mission givers for Persistent Universe outfits have made tremendous progress, as have the clothing collections for both Olisar and Hurston. The updated flight suit continues to be developed, and R&D on the pipeline for delivering character heads, including realistic hair for all characters, has also received attention. The animations of Pataglia and Kiln, the new mission givers, have been added. They are now focusing on a new pair of mission givers. The team is also building out the bartender characters with the goal of instilling a level of life and dynamic activity fitting of a real hard-working mixologist. They've been working on getting the Vandal fully functional and ready for motion capture as well. The ship animation team has continued adding a modular system for entering and exiting seats and turrets, breaking up the existing animations into sequences. The character can now use any of the enter-exit templates to interact with any cockpit type. For example, there can be an animation that uses the Aegis Gladius enter animation, but then has the player grab a dual stick control scheme. They can now use thousands of different combinations of this, granting more flexibility when creating new ships. Tech Art have the underlying tech for facial and head customization working as intended now. They are now working to have good-looking deformation algorithms to reduce clipping in all situations where you move your body. Engineering have been working on the pickup and carry of items, merging 1,700 animations into under 100. They've been developing a new animation type wrapping technology using player knockdowns as test cases. So the new method calculates the time needed and stretches that into a single animation to fill it rather than using a looping animation, and it can be applied to things like jumping and knockdowns and all of that sort of jazz. They are working on improving the looting system and adding assets to improve the general look and feel of picking up objects, boxes, and items in Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. Work has also continued on weapon recoil. Player locomotion sets have updated to work with an entity-driven system to ensure that client and server animations are exactly the same. The team also made tweaks to some of the poses to allow for better blending between animations and to minimize foot sliding. The environment. So they have written procedural text for the new Persistent Universe missions and created posters and props and helped define locations further, like Lorville on Hurston. The environment art team has continued to push on Hurston, and the second group of ecosystems have had their first pass completed. One of the newest ecosystems is the Wasteland biome, which was first shown during CitizenCon 2017 and will cover a large part of the surface of Hurston. The team took the time to properly update the Wasteland biome to take advantage of the newest planet tech completed this year. The second biome that received proper attention this month was the strip mining ecosystem, which too can be found on Hurston. Lorville is moving forward, with artists spending their time focusing on various areas the player will be able to visit, refining the shapes and architecture, adding materials, lights, and assets to further bring these areas to life. They've worked on the lighting for Lorville hangars and rest stops and are experimenting with placement of those lights. They spent a large amount of time working on the procedural technology for layouts. They are currently looking into customizing the various entry points into Lorville, as well as adding some extra content for the immediate areas around the city. Also, they are revisiting Area 18 to fully revamp it and integrate it into the universe, taking advantage of the new procedural tools in place. Common element utilitarian hangars have had their final art pass. There is a lot of assets to get them up to their final quality though, but once completed, the hangars will be considered finished from an environmental art perspective. Multi-resolution gas cloud work is complete, making it possible to combine several gas clouds together at different resolutions and scales. Memory, however, is still a limiting factor, and they are working on solutions. Foundations of a new multi-layer shader system are finished, and their focus has shifted to adding visual features to the shaders to help with convincing-looking paint and metals, as well as more realistic blending of natural materials like rock, grass, and sand. AI and missions. They added mechanics for NPCs to use grenades to flush their opponents out of cover if they remain stationary for too long. Also, more work was done on improving the way NPCs react to incoming grenades. They now use a nav mesh to determine where they can safely escape to. Combat ships now know how to fight as proper gunships and not just as fighters. For example, if a ship with numerous turrets engages you, it may fly around you while its turrets track you down, as opposed to flying directly at you and trying to joust with you or whatever. They tackled the implementation pass for trained combat FPS AI combatants. This included an enter and exit from cover, as well as combat actions like peek, reload, blind fire. They've also done a previs pass on the untrained combat set as well, comparing it to the trained combat set so it can stay true to their characters. Players will have a much more unique experience when fighting the Vandal as well. They will fly very differently to human NPCs. They are approaching full production for the Vandal enemies. General populace NPCs are also being experimented with as the team tests small, almost cinematic scenes that the player can experience as they walk around major landing zones. Subsumption missions can now define event callbacks. Missions can receive and send subsumption events, and logic can be written to be executed in association with a specific event as described by the designers. This helps in the creation of more modular missions. They also extended the functionality of supporting multiple mission objectives for each mission module. Lots more work has been done with usables. They now have channels for subsumption. A use channel basically describes what you can do with a particular usable. For example, assuming there is a usable bed that might expose the following use channels: sleep, rest, watch TV, sit on bed. When an NPC uses a use channel, it would effectively use the same logic written by the designers in a similar way to subsumption functions. This allows a more modular definition of the actions allowed when interacting with a usable, maintaining the context of the behavior that is currently running. For ship AI, takeoffs and landings have gone through a small refactor to allow AI behaviors to utilize designer-placed splines to be more robust and deliver a more cinematic effect. Ships and vehicles. The Anvil Hurricane has completed its flight prep phase. The art team have completed their pass on the Mustang Alpha, and they are now working on its variants. The Constellation Phoenix is in its high poly phase. They've also modelled the Constellation Emerald to accommodate the Emerald's paint job. UV revisions of the original Constellation were required. The Anvil F8 Lightning has just finished its high poly modelling phase and is being made flight ready. The internal damage has been completed and work on the LODs are next. Then they will concentrate on the last polish and efficiency pass before creating marketing material for the ship reveal. It'll be interesting with that one actually, because it sounds like there might be a sale of it, but we'll have to wait and see. The Vandal Blade has undergone a rework mainly around the wings so it can better accommodate weapons after it was decided the underslung position looked too human and needed to be more aligned with the Vandal aesthetic. The Eclipse Stealth Bomber, the 600i Explorer, the Vandal Blade, and the Venger and its variants are all being finished for 3.2, as is the Anvil Hurricane. The vehicle team has also implemented the ability to underpower and overpower ship components, and then hook that into the vehicle's MFD UI. For example, when you underpower your weapons, they fire slower or the projectiles have less energy. Similarly, your shields will be more effective if they have more power. They have also been making improvements to turrets, both coming in 3.2, and have implemented cameras on remote turrets so they can be controlled by players, allowing them to focus their turret target on a ship to see its relevant status. Development and core tech improvements. So they've done a good amount of work on object container streaming, including adjusting AI components with the new API to allow a safer construction in different threads, making the 3D engine loading code threads safe, allowing them to load large parts of the game world in the background. They've made several improvements to the shader build pipeline and infrastructure code, started work on vertex animation processing refactors and optimization, moving it to the GPU, and they've continued to work on telemetry systems amongst numerous other things. One long-term task that was completed was the refactoring of the entity components scheduler. The system is responsible for managing the update frequency of the game logic. As more and more features were added over time, its design degenerated, resulting in a hard-to-use system. So the refactor is now complete, the code is easier to maintain and extend now, and more features are planned to be added to the scheduler over time. They spent some time improving the threading system for the background job manager, adding a fiber-based system. As the system was used more and more for object container streaming, they took the time to clean up all out-threading primitives. Now all those are fiber aware, allowing them to schedule another job when a background job isn't blocked, and thus a more efficient resource usage. In the same code area, they adjusted the scheduler to not block on submission to improve runtime performance by preventing the main thread stalling when submitting numerous jobs simultaneously. Lots more optimization and efficiency stuff, basically. They are also looking at new software to make testing more efficient as the game grows exponentially. Engineers can also now test changes in a safe location rather than applying them directly into the production environment. They provisioned more server capacity for all regions in anticipation of a very popular feature publish. They're very excited about the improvements made to the ship pipeline and are looking forward to the opportunities that provides. Backend services have optimized the persistent cache, breaking it down into smaller services. The generic cache service can now be used by other services to store data and contain persistence. The persistent item cache grants game items for online players and will organize and manage the associations of items between each other and provide optimized queries. Some other stuff. Design refined the recipe system to prepare it for future implementation. Early iterations will be simple, but will form the basis of a more complex system that will allow players to get into the nuts and bolts of what makes items in the verse tick. Weapons completed a full polish of the Gemini F55 light machine gun, the Klaus & Werner Democo light machine gun, the Kastak Arms sniper rifle, all in preparation for the 3.2 release. Audio have made some optimization, keeping audio events in memory after the game is finished with them, so they don't need to be repeatedly loaded from the hard drive. Lots more work done to the UIs on the item kiosks, as well as getting the basically mining kiosks working as well, so you can sell ore after mining. On the website and Spectrum forum side, Spectrum have been testing friend implementations on the PTU, the ability to send requests and manage your contacts. They are also working on a notification system, providing alerts for receiving and sending friend requests. The full features of the friend system are going to be available on the PTU within the month. The RSI website is now GDPR compliant. The roadmap can be more easily updated. They are building a fan kit section as well with info, assets, and tools for fan projects. The knowledge base was launched on the 10th of May. This is a huge resource of information with FAQs, explanations, guides, help, and troubleshooting for Star Citizen. I very much recommend checking it out if you have a question about the game, the website, having problems logging into your account, an issue with the game, whatever. Check that out. It is a great database of info. Groups and parties. So they've been working on the group services for in-game, concentrating on API services to set up group invitation system and the concept of leadership within a group. 2 releases of the group service were completed last month, which included all the necessary calls for the invitations. The system is being implemented and tested by US gameplay teams. The next iterations of the service released will include a call for group leadership. They've also been working to sync the new Spectrum architecture, which will allow players to view and manage their contacts in the Mobiglass comms app. The team is placing the chat feature directly into the Mobiglass so players can communicate using both the Visor chat and the Mobiglass comms app. Group creation, interaction, invites, and contacts are all being worked on at the same time. Quantum linking will be synced with the group system to allow for various interactions between local players and those in a party. Groups will easily be able to quantum jump to a shared destination together. Spline jumps were also added, which allows players to travel from one side of a celestial body to another. There will be lots of tweaks to that coming in the future, but these non-linear quantum jumps are extremely important for the game. Some Squadron 42 stuff. Some of the team spent the month working on production to organise work on the remaining narrative tasks and started tackling a handful of set dressing documents. A considerable amount of effort was put into multiple Squadron 42 characters, along with new weapon concepts. The team there also made some important strides on Vandal animations, creating a behaviour set to improve a visual guide on how they will move and operate in Squadron 42, and Vandal AI progress is also continuing. It's in the prototype phase currently. They have worked on new levels, scenes, and cinematics for the game, testing the spacing and time taken to move around environments. Very important for Squadron 42 for their storytelling atmosphere to be correct. They want it to be the correct amount of distance to travel between missions, and when you're in buildings and things, that needs to be the correct distance where you're moving around stations. They have been working on feather blending. This technique allows for drastic changes to performance capture if needed. So animators can decide from which bone to feather in the original performance capture on top of. They also went back to a level that had a large cinematic and started overhauling the planet setup and vistas to the latest workflow standards. Part of this included Squadron 42's way of customizing your character. And that was the monthly report. I'll put links to the original down below. Please tell me what you think of the new format, because it might have been a little bit sporadic this time. But it is, I tried to section up a little bit better rather than reading the same thing repeatedly from each of the studios. A lot of them have been working on the particular ships like the Hurricane and stuff, but I didn't want to keep on saying basically the same thing. I just wanted to summarize it. But tell me what you think in the comments below. This month's featured spotlight is the Daymar Rally, and they're giving away a rally pack of a Tumbrel Cyclone and an Aegis Vulcan, which coincidentally is all the hardware you need to enter the rally. The Daymar Rally is an annual community organised event which is set to have its inaugural endurance race on the 27th of January 2019. There will be 3 divisions over a 300-kilometre course set on Crusader's moon, Daymar. It is an in-game event, and I am very much up for these. A 4-person crew can sign up their team now with a ground vehicle and support vehicle. More info, the sign-up and complete rulebook can be found on daymarrally.com. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that rally pack, though, is be subscribed to my channel and comment on any of my videos throughout June. 1 per video. Each video gives you another chance to win. Also, I'm working with Shadow, which is a cloud-based subscription gaming PC service that gives you an alternative to upgrading, but also as a gaming PC anywhere. I'm trying to make the service as Star Citizen friendly as possible, but please check that out again in the description below if you're interested, and using the promo code BoredGamer will give you a discount too if you decide that you like it. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I'll see you in the verse.